Welcome back, folks. This week's RGR conversation, Dan and I are going to, I don't know, fight, throw things.
Who knows, man?
Break cameras.
I'm probably not going to throw anything because I'm outside and I don't have anything right next to me except for my microphone. So that's probably not a good idea.
It is round. You could do something with it.
And it does disconnect from the end. So technically it's a ball. I could throw.
Okay, but let's not break that. That's a nice addition. Is it called Magic? I can't even keep
up. It's a blue snowball.
Yes. Okay. Blue makes nice microphones, hence this one, folks, that I use for vocals with the band. If you want to get into podcasting, check Blue out. Yeah, both of these are great mics. And this lets us actually hear each other a little bit better. So I'm glad for that because we have a lot to talk about. We're kind of a little bit behind due to schedules and due with the crossovers that you guys saw on the channel last week from the Locked On Network. No, this is not me boycotting. This is just the colors for the network.
You know, he said that, but don't believe him.
I got family that are owners. I'm just
voluntarily
saying
wearing
those bricks. Yeah. Well, it says Locked On, so I'm trying to sport it. And
I get it.
My cousins all have those bricks when you buy a piece of the Packers. So
okay, well,
for them that are watching and down in Georgia and Wisconsin, hi guys. So we haven't actually been on since the Mahomes deal, since the Jones deal, since the crosshairs on the back of Schwartz's jersey. Like we got to cover all these things, right?
So much to talk about.
I know, right? Like it's almost flashback at this point, but we can roll it all up. I think we're both a little bit surprised that those deals got done, but let's cut to the chase. This has to be a Super Bowl run right now. How do you feel about having spent that money where they are with being able to keep talent on this roster?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of it has to do with the timing of it, and Hunt and Veach and Reed, they're all willing to spend this money that no other team is really. Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Clark Hunt is a little in the know about what's probably going to happen. And having that kind of information allows you to take calculated risks. And they backloaded a lot of these contracts. And Mahomes' deal, like we talked about before, on the live Q&A, that's what it was, the Q&A. If we have the ability to kind of crinkle that up and throw it away after 5 years or something like that. So the flexibility within the Mahomes deal and the Jones deal kind of gives them that leeway for this maybe 2 to 3 year period that the cap is going to be in flux. So they did this, and they know that the Jones deal is going to keep him here for the next 2 to 3 years, which is their real shot to get another Super Bowl or two, which if you can keep this team together for another 2 to 3 years, you could feasibly have a head up on a lot of these teams. So I love keeping Chirs Jones here. I did not expect it to get done, and I was uber shocked when it happened, but super happy about it because he's a great defensive player. And not having that initial roster bonus, whatever it was, the signing bonus for his contract is very interesting because that does also allow him to be able to be traded. So there's a lot of fluidity and creativity with these deals. So they knew what they were doing, and they knew what they had to do given what COVID has done with the situation right now.
Yeah, it's tough. And, I agree with you. Having that flexibility, and folks, what we're talking about is that Clark Hunt is on the finance committees, on the international committee. He's in, honestly, as much power as the Chiefs owner has been since Lamar founded and brought the thing together, quite frankly. And so that puts them in a good position. Not as good as mine with switching cameras right in the middle of that stream. Sorry, folks. I ran out of battery on the good camera. But we're going to roll with it anyway. It's what happens. At the end of the day, they have to be able to make those moves, and backloading works. Clearly, Chris didn't want it completely backloaded because they kept his number right where the franchise tag was. That certainly works. Especially this year, he's going to play for exactly what he would have played for anyway. So there's no impact in terms of right now, which I think I totally agree with you. Sets them up that this season and 2021 are the thing. You're going to have to make some choices, but we're going to argue about that later. At the end of the day, I think the addition of CEH, that's going to change the offense a little bit. We're going to talk about Chirs Jones next time, folks, and we'll show you some film probably later this week when we get together again. But for right now, it gives you the pass rush ability. You still have Nadi and Pennell for the run. The only thing that I feel like they are net loss right now is the linebacker level against the run. With Pennell back, that certainly gives you your stuffer, but you still need somebody to be able to come downhill. I'm not that comfortable with it being Willie Gay Jr. yet. We haven't even seen him practice yet.
Yeah.
So the jump from playing hardly at all last season at the college level to the NFL is going to be tough. And they don't have that guy that they can bring off the bench to stop the run. The other guy of the 3 deals this offseason that actually got done and got major extensions, there were the 2 Chiefs, and then there was a running back in Tennessee that likes to crush people. So I see that as a little bit, something in the back of your head you got to keep in mind as they start to maybe practice in the near future.
Yeah, excuse me. So I know that the run defense is something that you really wish were to be better. But let's look at it from this perspective. The 49ers ran all over the Chiefs, really. I mean, realistically speaking, they were able to run at will with Deebo Samuel and Mostert, and they scored 20 points into the third quarter. The Chiefs' offense stalled for most of that game, and that's something that I think will have to continue to work itself out a little bit. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, last year they had issues really all season being consistent until Mahomes came back from his injury and they started to get more gelling on the offensive line with Eric Fisher and then Wisniewski. So they had a lot of things to work out, and that helped them overcome adversity and get that chemistry together. And then they did it again in the playoffs whenever they were down. They just continued to fight back and get offensive chemistry going. And going into this year, I think that that's going to give them not only a head up, but an entire body on defenses because they already have that offensive chemistry. And this is really going to benefit offenses and teams that have been together for a while because you don't have to practice as much as teams that are going through not only systematic changes, but coaching staff changes, player changes. So this is like, as much as we talk about the run defense, they're probably going to be better off this year than they were last year and the year before because they have Pennell, they've got Saunders, who was actually really good against the run down the stretch last year.
Yeah.
Jones, who, he freelances a bit, but he makes tackle for losses on a regular basis. And Noddy, who's really one of the better run defenders in the NFL, who doesn't get talked about enough. Yeah. And then if you have all of those guys up front that can do their jobs, and I think Pennell and Noddy do their job well enough, you combine that with guys like Okafor if he's healthy and Clark, who are all really good run defenders and staying in their lane, that will open up, those gaps for linebackers to get into. The second year in the defense, it benefits everybody. So we're going to see an improvement in that aspect just because offenses aren't going to be clicking as much.
Yeah, that's fair. It's all relative, I guess. Returning that offense and everybody kind of gunning for the Chiefs offense and trying to keep up. So it may de-emphasize the run against them to begin with, but my bigger point is just that's the only thing that I can say is any concern, is that run game. And like you said, it's not as important as it used to be. Never mind my proclivity about it. But my point is that, yes, they lost Kendall Fuller, but overall, if Breeland's allowed to play, and we don't know what that kind of penalty is going to look like, they're pretty much status quo in the passing department as long as Juan Thornhill's healthy. And by all accounts, that's what we're hearing, but we don't know. Yeah. But my bigger point is if it's just the run, if it's just not being able to bring Reggie in to attack the run and a runner specifically like Henry, I think they're going to be in perfectly good shape because, like you said, the Niners went all over them, and that was a speed issue, not a power issue. And Willie's going to help that. So,
definitely.
I don't know. I'm feeling optimistic. At this point, this is going to be a tricky week, whether they get on the field, when they get on the field. Yeah. And, folks, we're recording this over the weekend. You probably won't see this till midweek. The Chiefs will likely have some of them reported by now, and hopefully everything's still negative in terms of test results. We'll find out. But that ability to just kind of hit the ground running on the offensive side, other than the left guard spot, I think that's going to be a really intriguing battle. But that gives them such a leg up, especially when you think about teams like, I don't know, poor Los Angeles Chargers, whose rookie quarterback hasn't taken a snap from anyone yet.
Yeah.
That's impossible to try and run an offense around, as good as their defense is going to be.
Yeah, and I think when we look at just in terms of the AFC West, the Raiders are trying to overhaul their offense, bring in a bunch of different weapons, and the Broncos did the same thing. Granted, they're going to be the majority of the same stylistically, and trying to bring in weapons speed, and Cortland Sutton's going to be an issue, but I don't think Melvin Gordon adds very much to that team. I think Philip Lindsay did a really good job and didn't get enough opportunity in the past game. So the status quo for every other team is just so flux. It's just in such flux because of everything that's going on, that with the Chiefs' emphasis on bringing everybody back, I brought this up before all this started happening, and I feel like they could know what was going to happen, but they had enough of an inkling about maybe this could stretch into the football season to work as hard as they could to bring everybody back. And looking back at it right now, it's paying dividends, and they're gonna be able to hit the ground running and just kind of start running people over and putting up points. And I mean, defenses are gonna have some real issues, especially if who knows what defense they're going to be conditioned like in the first 4 weeks of the season. Who has a clue? You got to get in game shape, and I don't know how you're going to do it with this.
It's a big rut row is all I'm going to say. I mean, and Los Angeles is in a good spot because their defense plays the Chiefs pretty tough, and they added Chris Harris. Chris Harris will be ready to go. I don't care what he's got to do. He will be ready. Yeah. So, like, that's the only one that concerns me in terms of being able to actually give them something to worry about on the defense facing Mahomes. But there's no way their offense can keep up. I go back and forth, but honestly, who do you feel better about being able to try to compete with this team? Who do you think is better between the Broncos and the Raiders at this point?
Man, a lot depends on Drew Luck's leap. If he stays the same, I think it's going to be the Raiders, just because we know what Derek Carr is. Yeah. And even at his best in 2016, I think it was, that's the most that we know we can get out of Derek Carr. So we have a bit of a range that we can see from him. But if Drew Lock takes a step in any way forward, I think the Broncos immediately become that second, because their defense isn't phenomenal, but it's got a lot of returning guys too. And they're still really good 1-2 punch at safety. So they're going to be able to compete in the back half as much as the front four that they have. Linebacker isn't very strong in this division at all. So that's just how it is. And if, like I said, if they take any step forward, Cortland Sutton, and then they add a bunch of other speed guys, and they have pretty decent depth at wide receiver. So that's going to be what I'm looking for, because Drew Lock has a lot of really, really exceptional tools to work with. And then if he can get that film work in and start to understand defensive concepts and not be so loosey-goosey with the football as it would be, it's going to pay off for the Broncos, and that's why they took him. That ceiling for him is pretty high. It's much higher than Derek Carr's is. So
I agree with you. It's all about upside. I was on Denver radio last week, and I said basically the same thing. The question to me is, what kind of staff are you putting around him to help him make that step forward? Because right now I have the Raiders above them until we know if he's going to make any evolution at all. Because Vic Fangio's a good coach. He's not going to help a quarterback develop. So it's got to be more than just a QB coach to be in his ear. It's got to be a bunch of other things. It's got to have the wide receivers paying more attention. It's got to be that coaching staff. I think that you're right. I think their wide receiver group is a little bit farther along than the Raiders, but I feel like the thing that Carr needs is playmakers. He needs to deliver the ball where he can and let them do it. And I think he has a better crew, again, upside wise. Yeah. So unless they get some severe help for Locke, I think it's going to be Carr and the Raiders that are the closest behind the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I like both of them. I don't think that either of them are going to finish as badly as they did last year. Right. I think the Raiders may be around 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, that kind of area. But it's so hard to, especially with what's going on. Their defense did not get much better in the offseason. Let's just be real about that. The Raiders didn't do very much to address the defense. I know they brought in some free agents, but they're not
linebackers. Yeah, Kwiatkowski, and they're trying to be able to run at the second level.
And that's okay. But they don't have the corners to keep up. And I know that.
I like Trayvon Mullen, though. I thought his film in college was good.
He was good. He wasn't very good last year.
No, that rookie year was rough on him.
But I think
they're banking on that. Exactly. They're banking on Abrams to get back and turn that thing around.
And if he does, then that's going to help him a lot. But if he doesn't, they're really in it, especially playing against the Chiefs twice a year. And then Sutton, they don't have anybody that can deal with Sutton. And so, I mean, it's a really wild card spot for them, because defensive conditioning is so important, especially in this division. So I like the Raiders, what they're doing stylistically on offense. They know what they want to do. They see Derek Carr's ceiling, what it is, what he could be if he had the right crew around him. I think that they did enough to do that and to get the most out of him, and that's all you can do. If we really look at it, they're kind of setting themselves up for what the Chiefs did with Alex Smith at quarterback. They know what Alex Smith is. They brought in Tyreek Hill. They already had Travis Kelce. Then they drafted Kareem Hunt. They got players around him. And then they looked at their quarterback and said, okay, we need to take a chance on something. So the Raiders are in a pretty good position to evaluate Derek Carr with all the weapons. Next year, if that doesn't happen, I guarantee you they're getting a quarterback. And they might have to move up and do what the Chiefs did to get that playmaker, the difference maker.
Yeah, honestly, they might try another retread too.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised to see Jacoby Brissett eventually be released and end up there, because I know that Gruden thinks he can work with him. And that's my bigger thing is like, I'm still a Chucky believer that he can make guys play better than they should. I don't know that he can win championships, but I feel like I feel like Andy winning a Super Bowl really kicked him in the teeth, and he's pissed.
I hope so. Yeah. I'd love to see him get like he already gets fired up on the sideline sometimes, but like when he plays the Chiefs, as soon as one big play happens, he's just gonna blow up, and I just can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be
so
fun.
good.
Oh man! Beyond that, when we get to this point, I'm just concerned whether they report on time, whether they stay healthy or not. I don't know right now, folks. We don't know if there's going to be preseason games or not.
No. Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned, not just for the rookies. The rookies needed this offseason, mini camps and stuff to get going, but they're always going to be at a deficit being a rookie. The guys that I'm concerned about, you mentioned one of them before, and I mentioned one of them before actually, is the sophomores.
Yeah.
Colin Saunders got better against the run. He's a natural pass rusher. He is more of a Chirs Jones than he appeared on film last year because he does have that first step. He could be a penetrating guy that plays that 3-tech eventually next to Chris. I think that could be interesting, but he hasn't had a chance to progress. Juan Thornhill's been hurt. He wouldn't have missed OTAs anyway, so that's out there. But Hardman, Saunders, Thornhill, those are the guys that I think really we have to see a lot of progression from week 1, whenever that is, through week maybe 4 or 6.
Yeah, and I've listened to some of Therese Paylor's and Charles Robinson's podcast, and they're discussing that they're trying to get one preseason game, and I think the owners want at least one, and I understand that completely. The front offices need to know what they have on these back end guys, especially if they're going to extend rosters and practice squads. They need some kind of tape against any kind of any kind of competition, not just in practice. So I understand why they're fighting so hard, and I know some people are just like, just get rid of the preseason completely. But it's a precedent that you need to know what you got, and especially if you let somebody go and they become a contributor on someone else's team, like immediately, that's something that they could have had on their practice squad or even on their roster for a possible COVID related incident, so that they could have someone slide in. And it's more important than I think a lot of fans think. And even though the preseason is regarded as not very important, I think one preseason game is more important than people really seem to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, and you gotta keep in mind, folks, there's been no offseason training with the team. Anybody can work out at home, and that's great, but there's going to be soft tissue injuries. There's going to be hamstring pulls. You're going to see more Achilles this year than I think you've seen in the last 3. So you have to watch out for all those things. My only thing is I actually would skip the preseason myself because, like you said, you need to get that on film, but you're going to have injuries in that game.
Yeah.
I'd rather them go down in a regular season.
I get it.
Meant something.
I understand why I understand why they're fighting for it, and I get it. I get both sides. It's really difficult. This is a ridiculous offseason, and if we have football, it's going to be a crazy year.
I think it's going to be interesting because the roster expansion is a good point.
Yeah.
I think it was 6 or 8 weeks ago. I said just keep the 9 or the 75-man roster, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just so you always have your own stable of guys to bring up when somebody gets sick, because it's gonna happen.
Well,
before we go though, I want to get your take on it because I know how JJ Watt feels, but the mask thing. Did you see the mock-ups
for
the lower part of the face mask?
Face guards, like for their face masks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like getting rid of the the jersey swaps. What's that going to do?
It's not going to do anything.
It's not going to do anything. When they released the information that there weren't going to be any jersey swaps, like, you guys realize they played the whole game, right? They just played the whole game. They sweat on each other. I guarantee you someone got coughed on. Like, this kind of stuff's going to happen.
That's ridiculous.
I hope they don't go through with it.
I think the mask is going to be important because I watched some airflows of Oakley's design, and it actually does keep like direct expression right into somebody's face, but it's still falling below whatever. You get up under somebody's face mask and they're coughing like this, it's coming right on you. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't mind the face mask thing. I get why the players might not like it.
Yeah,
the jersey swap is just ridiculous.
It's dumb.
Yeah,
I mean, we're still waiting on a plan. What have they been doing?
Yeah, I mean, and again, folks, it's the weekend. We're trying to get this out a little bit ahead of time. The Chiefs are one of the teams with the Texans that get to practice a little bit early because they're in that Thursday night monstrosity that starts the season. Rather than just making Sunday Night Football the biggest thing ever. But hey,
it's what they should do.
Ignore me, Roger. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm concerned. This should go out on Wednesday is my current plan because because it's going to be an interesting week all the way around. But gut feeling where you're at now, we'll both see whether we're right or not. Do they get into camp and actually start by the 22nd?
Oh yeah, they do. Okay. I don't think that they're going to have a full plan yet, but I think that they're very, very dead set on getting into camp, especially with that letter that was released actually earlier today about everyone's going to be reporting basically. So I think they definitely will. And that's 4 days from now. So I don't see any drastic changes happening from now until then.
It was yesterday by the time you guys see this. So
yesterday.
The question for me is how many Chiefs come back and are positive? I think there's going to be a couple. And around the league, I don't think you have to worry about in Kansas City because this whole run it back thing, nobody's going to voluntarily say, I don't want to play. I don't think that's going to be an issue in KC. Yeah. But there are going to be guys around the league who don't report because they don't want to play.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of a mess, and we're going to have more for you, folks. This is a get it out of the way thing so that we can react when stuff comes. So we'll jump on here and give you guys a heads up. We might even do an extra live stream this week. Who never knows? So another piece of information. The Fan to Fan Network is getting started. We're going to have some of our video posted over there, so you can always check that out too. It's an interesting concept. It's going to be a bunch of YouTubers that are coming together so you can get some different insight on different teams too. So I'll have links for you probably next week. Check those out, and we'll have some stuff over there. But Dan, what's your next review coming out on AG?
Well, I am currently looking at offensive tackles, and I already did Mitchell Schwartz. I'm actually looking at him throughout the league, so I'm thinking about doing
the All-Pro that is in the top 10, right?
Yeah, the Mitchell Schwartz that is actually everybody knows that's one of the actually second best tackle in the NFL, not somebody you would just leave off of a list,
right?
Even if you're an NFL executive, because
even if you're just media making stuff up in the middle of a dead part of the season.
I wonder if they just met and they were like, let's leave somebody off because he always gets disrespected anyway. Why not?
Why not? Honestly, you might be right. This might be a conspiracy because I'm guessing they got more views on that story.
I guarantee you they did. It went everywhere because Mitchell Schwartz is probably the second best tackle in the NFL, and they just said, yeah, he doesn't have any athletic traits, so he's not very good.
And if anybody's going to cry about athletic traits, it's going to be me. But folks, you got to remember, athletic traits get you to the league. What you do in the league is what keeps you here.
We all saw Cam Irving at left tackle last year. One of the most athletic linebackers Chiefs have. And how did that work out?
Yeah.
So, but I might do I think I'm thinking about doing a breakdown of how they played against the same edge defender, like some of the guys that played against Minnesota. And I know Schwartz played against Hunter, and that's something I'm kind of looking at doing because I think it's a cool idea to see how different tackles approach the same edge defender and see how
absolutely
guys like Lane Johnson, who's one of the most athletic tackles in the NFL, attacked him versus a Mitch Schwartz, who doesn't have those traits, but continues to shut people down on a daily, weekly, weekend basis.
It's all here for Schwartz.
So yeah, I think about doing something like that.
That's cool. I would look forward to that. And folks, make sure you're checking that out over at Arrowhead Guys. That's where Dan will be posting that stuff. We'll have more for you, and we'll leak some of these things out as we get everything off the ground in the next couple of weeks, and maybe we'll actually have a season. I don't know.
That's all hope right now. I'm sorry, some shake from the wind right here.
Yeah, that's all right. You look fine.
Windy.
But folks, that's going to be it for us this week. Maybe I'll con Dan and do a little bit more, and we'll put something on the beer channel in a minute. But
I'm good with that.
Okay, rock on. But we hope you guys are having a good week. This might get started. Enjoy the process and just keep an eye out for how the Chiefs are doing. Thanks for everything, Dan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And folks, we'll talk to you next time. Later.